thanks for joining us today on Coastal and Progressive Rainbow Forum on Society Bites Radio. Today we will be speaking with James Robinson, the Executive Director of Also Youth in Sarasota. Welcome, James. So glad to have you today.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got became the executive director, and also explain what Also Youth is to people who may not be familiar with Also Youth? It has a history here in the Sarasota, Manatee area.
Oh, yes. Well, Also Youth was formally established 23 years ago, but actually has been around for about 27 years. And the organization provides support for lesbian, gay, bisexual, questioning, queer youth from ages 13 to 24 with all different kinds of support groups, social activities, educational programming, and all different types of activities throughout the year. My personal background is many years ago, about 12 to 13 years ago, I ran an organization in Providence, Rhode Island that was basically identical to Also Youth. My background is in nonprofit management and fund development. I've been doing that for about 25 years. I started doing that for an affordable housing corporation in New York City, and then moved to Providence for about 10 years and worked with AIDS Project Rhode Island and a couple of community hospitals, and then ended up at Youth Pride in Providence. About 10 years ago, I moved to Fort Myers and was the development director at the Clinic for the Rehabilitation of Wildlife on Sanibel, and spent the last 5 years at a fantastic school for young people with learning disabilities in Fort Myers. I came to Also Youth about 5 weeks ago as their new executive director. And, it's an interesting time to take on a position like this, but I am so looking forward to, as things progress back to some kind of normalcy where we can actually interact in person, something that I'm very much looking forward to.
Excellent. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the programs that are run there at Also Youth for the LGBTQ plus community?
Sure. Well, currently, because of the whole COVID-19 virus situation, we are still working with young people virtually. We provide, through Zoom, we're doing group meetups on Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. At 4 p.m., we meet with young people aged 13 to 17, and at 6 p.m. on those days, we meet with young people aged 18 to 24. And those meetups take different forms depending on what's going on there. They're led by Amanda Just, who is the program manager here. And they act as support. They are allowing young people who are, because of the situation, in some form of isolation, not to be completely isolated. It allows them to interact with their peers and, work through any anxieties or differences that they're experiencing during this time. We're also able to do things like Amanda's running a book club with a group of young people who are interested, because that's something that can also be done virtually. When the drop-in center is open, we have things like we have a lending library. We provide support for about a dozen GSAs throughout the Manatee and Sarasota counties, and those are formerly gay straight alliances at schools, local schools, now typically called gender and sexuality alliances. We do community trainings. We go out to organizations, not just youth-serving organizations, but pretty much any organization who is interested or looking for trainings, sensitivity trainings, and inclusion trainings for nonprofits and for-profit companies. who are working with their staff to be more sensitive to working with the LGBTQ community. One of our big event of the year is, well, we have a number of fundraising events throughout the year. We organized the turkey trot on Thanksgiving morning as a fundraiser for also youth, and that's been intensely popular. We're still looking forward to it this year, but not 100% sure it will actually happen. But we are definitely working with an eye toward that. And in the spring, we work with the Out of Doors Academy to host an LGBTQ prom, and that this year's prom was attended by about 250 young people, and it's a very, very popular event for the young people to look forward to.
Excellent. Yes, those have grown. You know, a number of years ago in another, well, I'll tell you, the city of Houston, I used to be a chaperone to the LGBT community's prom they had there. And so that's an excellent opportunity for LGBTQ youth to feel like they're being included and have something they can look forward to. And because in previous generations and years, they were often excluded or felt out of place when they wanted to attend something like that. So that's very positive, very, very positive that you have that. Can you give us some more ideas about maybe some plans that you have discussed or things that may be forthcoming with also youth in the future here? Some ideas that things that might be done, and also with an eye towards COVID-19, of course, some ideas that you may be kicking around how to continue the interface. I know you said you're still moving forward with a lot of things, so that's good. And but can you give our listeners some ideas here that they could look forward to, and how they can refer people to also youth, even in this terrible time that we're in right now?
Well, I think you know, we're in the very early stages of working on a plan to I guess reopen during this time, and we're looking at the protocols that are being put in place by other organizations, other municipalities that are very careful. The space itself is relatively small, so we have to definitely keep an eye toward that while we're looking to see what's the best way to reintroduce people into the space. And at this point, I have no idea when that will happen. It's not going to be in the next 2 weeks or so, but it'll be a little further down the line. Likewise, even when we are able to get back to some kind of normalcy, we will probably still incorporate these virtual meetings as part of our programming because they've been successful, they've been popular, and there are certainly instances where young people run into transportation issues when trying to get here. So we'll probably keep those in line and aligned as well. We're also looking towards developing a leadership training program so that young people can advocate not only for themselves, but advocate for the community as a whole, and that the older of our young people can also look to themselves as leaders and examples for the young people who are following behind them. Also, part of that is so that the trainings that we do outside in the community, I'm hoping at one point that they're, you know, I don't think anybody wants to go see also youth training and just see old people like myself. So we're hoping to work it so that it's incorporated, the young people are incorporated into all the work that we do outside of the space.
Okay. Have you been able to, in the reopening plan here, have you thought about how you're going to let the young people and everybody, will they be wearing masks, for example, and things like this? And what ideas have?
I expect so. Like I said, it's in the very, very early stages at this point. We've just accumulated some of the protocols from other places to look at. Some of the board I'm meeting with on Friday to just begin in the talks about this. So once we go through a process of looking at other organizations, other places that are just beginning to reemerge from this. Once we have that conversation, we go through the protocols and see what we can adopt is going to be most effective for also youth. We'll put a plan on paper, and at that point, we'll be able to really talk more about what that will look like.
Okay. What other things do you think that might be able to be done here to, you mentioned you have a book club that's still going on, and that's very positive. We have, yeah.
You know, they have been able to, Amanda's been able to work out where young people are able to watch movies together, either at the same time, and then be able to, you know, hold discussions on them through Netflix or other streaming media, I guess. And, you know, we have young people are operating with us or working with us at this point through their homes. And of course, all of them come from different home situations. And all of them have different levels of technology within the homes. We had one parent recently come in and donate a number of pairs of earbuds to be distributed to the young people so that they can use them at home and beyond the support groups, and not have to have everybody in the house hear what's going on. You know, we've also, there are a few people who have dropped by just to pick up some things, like the books we have for book club, but also we've been very lucky that the Oslo Repertory Company and Beginning to End Interiors, which is Stan Wrightsell and Alan Gravely, both of those organizations or businesses created face masks for our young kids. And so we've been able to distribute them.
Excellent. I'll insert something that I'll talk with you about later, and that is I am one of the people who read a lot of LGBTQ related books for the annual book fair in Miami, and I have a donation for you I'll be making in the near future whenever I can get it arranged. I got quite a stack of books for you, and that so I think that should be of help there.
Yeah. Well, we also have a great lending library here. So
and that's what I was thinking about. You could use that there. We have anyway, I wanted to move on to another subject area here, and maybe you can give some thoughts here about this or share, you know, some information that you may have. We have, I'm sure you've heard of conversion therapy, and and we work hard to try to get this stopped. And do you have any thoughts you can share here about why it's important that we not allow this to continue to go forward and the damage it does to lives? In fact, one of the books I'll be presenting to you will be the book, and who I personally met the author, Boy Erased. I don't know if you've heard it before, but it's incredible. It was a movie. It was very popular, I think, 2 years ago. And so
I think I read it, actually, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's an incredible story of survival. And again, it deals with the horrors of conversion therapy and what has happened to some of the young people and the lives it's destroyed by this. Do you have any comments on this as far as how also youth could be of help in trying to prevent this, you know, maybe, or any actions that you all can take that will try to educate people on why this should not be attempted?
Well, I mean, I think that as a practice, it has